Hey, welcome back to Bobb-z Callahan's Word of Advice. And for this video, which is continuing the mini-series I've been working on recently, and these are topics inspired, as I said, by a vacation Bible school, which I helped out with at a church. For this topic, and one of the topics which was discussed at this vacation Bible school, I wanted to talk about the topic of being forgiving. And I think when it comes to forgiving people, well, if we recommend to somebody you should forgive them while putting it into action, whether it's that person or if it's you trying to forgive somebody, sometimes it's easier said than done. You know, when bad things happen, if there's like tension between you and somebody else, or if somebody said something really offensive, or if somebody did something really wrong, you know, trying to forgive that person and giving them another chance is not always easy. And that is understandable. And while I know, looking back, that I have talked about this topic before for the new series of Bobb-z Callahan's Word of Advice, and even though I talked about it in my original series too, I really think this is one of those topics which cannot be talked about enough, because it is inevitable that we are all going to make mistakes, and somebody else is going to make a mistake, and there are going to be times when we will really struggle to make up with that person. Or there might be times when someone is struggling to make up with you after something you did. And if there's two things I want to talk about with the topic of forgiveness, it would be these two things. Let me start with number one. Number one, I think it is important to realize that, as I said, it is inevitable that every person is going to make a mistake. And sometimes somebody, including yourself, might make a mistake which doesn't seem too gigantic. And then there might be those mistakes which seem very gigantic. But it is something that nobody can help, because nobody is perfect, and there has never been a single human who has lived a perfect life except for Jesus Christ. You know, all of us make mistakes, and we all have our flaws, and I think this is something very important to realize, because if you realize that everybody, including yourself, is going to make a mistake, then this can help you when you are trying to forgive somebody. And I think that makes somebody else feel a whole lot better once they are forgiven, because they can think to themselves, okay, I made a mistake, and even though I did upset this person, you know, this person is forgiving me, and, well, hopefully, once somebody is forgiven, they can try to correct themselves and not repeat that mistake. Even though they will mess up in the future, you know, hopefully the person that is being forgiven will try to correct themselves and not make that mistake again, or at least not often. So the point is, with this first reminder when it comes to this topic, is that all of us are going to make mistakes. We already have made a mistake, and we will make mistakes in the future. But when you keep that in mind, I think this can make it a little bit easier when you are trying to forgive somebody. And number two, if there's any other thing I want to throw in when it comes to the topic of forgiveness, it's that when you forgive somebody, I think you will actually feel very peaceful after you do so. Because if you forgive somebody and you try to work things out with somebody else, then, you know, if everything works out, then there is that sense of peace and comfort now that a problem has been worked out and it's been discussed. And it's better than holding a grudge. It's better than just ignoring that person and not forgiving them and not giving them a second chance. You know, there have been times when I did struggle to forgive people, and there have been people I know who have struggled to forgive me, but at times when I've either forgiven somebody or when someone has forgiven me, every time I have felt a sense of peace and comfort, because I could see that me and somebody else were trying to work things out, and once things were talked about and we moved on from the past and we forgave each other, you know, there's been that sense of peace and comfort in knowing that we have tried to work things out. And I would say just about in every case that I've experienced with that, I've been fortunate to say that things have worked out. So overall, with this point, you know, if you reach that point to forgive people who have made mistakes and you have not forgiven yet, I very much believe that if you and that other person can work things out, then there will be a sense of peace and comfort when things are worked out and you try to resolve any problem that you have had with somebody. And overall, this is what I wanted to talk about with this extremely important topic. I know it can be harder when it comes to forgiving people who have made a really huge mistake. And yes, it can be hard even forgiving somebody on something which may not be considered as big. You know, when problems arise and somebody does something that we don't want anybody to do, I realize that it can be difficult to forgive somebody and give them a second chance and just try to move on. But I do believe that if we try to forgive others, then, you know, there will be that sense of peace and comfort in knowing that you are trying to resolve any problem that has come up between you and somebody else. And also, I believe that somebody who is forgiven will feel some peace and comfort because that person who is trying to work things out with them is hopefully realizing that everyone's made a mistake, so we deserve a second chance. So, the main point is, if there is ever that time when you are trying to forgive somebody, I would say give it your best effort. And definitely mean it. Don't fake forgiveness. Always try to be sincere when you are forgiving somebody, and I wish you the best of luck when you are trying to resolve those relationships which have some tension in them, or even those relationships which might be broken. I do believe that, you know, with the help of God and prayer, and if we put true forgiveness into action, that we can resolve our problems with people we might have problems with. And with that, I certainly hope what I've talked about on this topic will come in handy. Be sure to come back for another word of advice video.